Hello, and welcome to Art Snack. Art Snack is that time of day when we take just a short break from our hectic schedule to talk about art. My name is Jennylynd James. I'm an artist who enjoys painting in acrylic and making my characters come alive on the canvas. I'm also the creator of a course entitled Succeeding as a Fine Artist, Guidance, Tips, and Strategies. You can find this course on Udemy. The link is in the description box. It's ideal for the emerging artists to help you make a living selling your art. Remember to hit that subscribe button so you can be alerted every time we speak with fantastic artists around the globe. Now, with me today is Juan Pablo Huerta, all the way from Mexico City. Now, we have a special surprise for you on the program because Juan Pablo is an architect. So it's the first time we have an architect on the program. Welcome.
Hi, Jennylynd. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here in your channel. Thank you very much for the invitation.
And thank you so much for joining us today on Art Snack. So Juan Pablo, tell me a bit about your journey as an architect. When did you discover that you love to draw and design buildings?
So it all started at an early age. I was raised by a very artistic father, and he and I inherited a lot of the creativity that he has, and I started developing my own. I was always very keen into drawing, always drawing, painting, and doing many things with my hands. So that was my early ages. That's how I started just getting involved into drawing, drafting, and just sort of expressing ideas. Then afterwards, of course, I think it all then made sense when I went abroad. I lived in Sherbrooke, or in Canada, in Montreal, for a year. When I lived there, because everything I've known before was, of course, my country. But when I lived there, I could see the difference of the relationship between the inhabitants of Montreal and their spaces, the different buildings, the different living, the streets, how they did a different way of life, of course, because of the cold, the very warm summer. And then I was like, I think Mexico City has so much potential. I mean, it is such a beautiful city already. And we are always surrounded by beautiful architecture, from the pre-Hispanic to the colonial to the modernist, and of course to the contemporary. So I didn't notice that until then. I think I then started valuing what we had back home, or what we have here in Mexico. And so I started to make the relationship. I was like, okay, so I like to draw, I like to sketch, I like to portray different situations, and now I am able to match that sort of sense of creativity and creation with the sense of space and living.
Yes. So tell us about your studies. Let me see. Share your slide and let's hear where you studied architecture.
Yeah, so I will share some I'm very proud of where I studied. I studied at the UNAM, the National Autonomous University of Mexico, which is the most important university here in Mexico, and of course, one of the most important in all of the Americas. So I'm very proud. I studied there in the Faculty of Architecture.
Yes. And did you specialize in any particular vein of architecture? Because I'm not aware of the program.
It's very curious that you ask. Yes, the National University has 3 variants of architecture, or basically 2, and then 1 that derives from it. So it's a landscape architecture, architecture, urbanism, and the last one, that's basically that you have to have like the first years of architecture, is industrial design.
Okay, yes, excellent. Well, I'm curious to see some samples of your work. Please show us.
Sure. So during my studies in the National Autonomous University, I worked with one of my teachers in my school.
Yes.
We started working in building in Texcoco, which was the former lake of the ancient city of Tenochtitlan. We built a cultural center which had auditoriums, workshops, a library, and a cultural center.
Okay.
So this was our my first approach to the actual world of architecture, not only school.
Excellent.
Afterwards, I joined Fernando Romero's office, which is one of the most prominent architectural offices here in Mexico.
Yes.
They identify, or I think what identifies the office is a very creative office.
Yes.
It's like a workshop of experimentation. And so I think that helped me into exploring and exploiting my creativity.
Okay.
So what we're seeing now is just a publication that we did about how to all of the common things that we encounter in our daily activities, how they would evolve into different things, and how sometimes they would need to be reused or reinterpreted.
Okay.
It was more more rather than a statement, it was more like an exercise of creation and creativity.
Yes.
Another project that we did was the airport of Mexico City, the one that was canceled. We did this with Norman Foster's office. It was a joint venture, and we won the competition. We're selected amongst 10 architects, 10 different firms of architecture here in Mexico. And of course, international, they had to joint ventures with an international company. So we won the competition, and basically the symbolism of the X of Mexico was portrayed in the overall concept.
Okay.
The construction started in 2018.
Yes.
Basically, 2017 and 2016, the foundation started to take place. 2017, the foundation was almost finished. 2018, the first steel structures were erected inside. So afterwards, this project, when the new president came into place, it was canceled, unfortunately, but it taught me a lot about the process of how to go from a concept to an execution, and in a very large scale.
Yes.
As architects, as concept architects, we do sketches, renders, but as executive architects, we have to look into every detail of the project.
Yes.
We did a model, which was the largest model in 2018, like one single model. We actually won a prize. The office won a prize for this model, as you know, or as you may not know, because this is not an architectural platform, but as many of you know, architectural also is developed in 3D models. We call these Revit models, and they are done, and they are basically to coordinate many of the disciplines that happen in a building.
Right. Excellent.
These are just some examples of some of the drawings that were used. These were not useful for building, but were useful for understanding the complex geometry of the building and the relationship with the model. Another project and another type of architecture that we also do is architectural competitions abroad, not only in Mexico, but also abroad. We were very close to open an office in Shenzhen in China until the pandemic hit. I was going to go and live in Shenzhen in February, but then the pandemic hit in November, December, so the plans got canceled.
That's too bad.
This competition, I will show you two projects that we did there. Both we won. We were not selected, or we were selected as a finalist, and we did not win. This one is a cultural center, which was in a very iconic corner in Shenzhen. It's called the Luohu Center. It had to have different workshops, theaters, amphitheaters, offices, and of course, we always think that these type of buildings had to create many public spaces for encounterings.
Okay.
The other project that we worked on was also in Shenzhen. As you know, China changed the mindset of many of their cities as they started to become very they polluted a lot. You remember Beijing was very saturated with pollution. And so the new cities that China started to develop had to have focus on sustainability. So Shenzhen, correct. So Shenzhen has something that is called sponge cities.
Okay.
Sponge cities is something that basically they suck in all of the water from the rain and they reuse it basically.
Okay.
So that's normative for a lot of the buildings now. So you had to take all of the rainwater and use it somehow.
Okay.
Or reinsert it into the program. And this building also, it was very creative in that sense because it had to have sharing spaces for different this city is known as the Silicon Valley of Asia.
Yes.
So this building has a lot of offices and sort of co-working spaces for entrepreneurs in technology. And the idea, and this image that you see on the right was some sort of cortana or city or something that put together all of the information, and these spaces around this hall were for people to meet, greet, and exchange ideas.
Yes, yes. Ooh, look at this.
This next project is very as you saw, the past two projects were basically very square and were very rational. That is also something that the Chinese government started to implement. They did not want to have architects that do very funky buildings. They thought that helped to put China in a map in the previous years, but now they need to have functional buildings and rational buildings.
Yes.
So those were the competitions that we have in China. This competition that you see here in the screen is the National Museum of Energy here in Mexico City.
Okay.
It was going to be built in Chapultepec. And basically the main idea was to portray all of the potential of Mexico as a country that cares about energy, to provoke geothermal energy, wind energy, solar energy. The whole facade is like charged by solar panels.
Okay, right.
This main courtyard has a floating sphere that was levitating by magnetism, which is also another way of energy. The most, say, a universal energy in all of original. Sorry. In all the universe.
Well, it's quite
so this was a very interesting competition.
Yes.
Yes. And the idea also, as magnetism is one of the main energies in the universe, and gravity, you can see how all of the building surrounds and revolves around the main patio, which is basically where we have this floating sphere that represents magnetism.
Beautiful.
Another project that we also did in the office, well, in my past office, was it was a cultural center in Oaxaca.
Okay.
So we used the typical systems of construction that were very used in the colonial period, which were vaults. You could see vaults in churches, you could see vaults in monasteries, you could see vaults in civic buildings. And these vaults created a series of spaces. They were interconnected to create flexible spaces below, as it has a museum, a theater, workshops, and administrative spaces.
Very good. Okay, Juan Pablo, so tell me about this project. You said it's one of your personal projects.
Yeah, so a part of working, so I left that office that I was working on. I work for a different office now. We're working in the Puerto Vallarta airport. I remained into the airport or the airport industry as an architect.
Yes.
And something that I think that I liked also was to remain in the design part of my life.
Yes.
So I got together with some friends. They had some relatives that needed a house in Tepoztlan. So they asked us if we could design it, and my friends and we started designing this house. It is a house that it is in the town of Tepoztlan. I think right now it's under construction. I go every Saturday to keep an eye on the progress. We are already, so everything that you see here is already built. We're just now getting into the details of this process. We're selecting and specifying the materials, the colors of the facade. We want to remain truthful to the images that I show now on the screen.
Yes.
So that the owners were very happy today that we saw the progress after almost, I think it's been 8 months of construction now. It took a little bit longer because the Tepoztlan is very isolated.
Oh, I see. And have you used any technology like solar energy in this house?
Yes. So we did not use solar panels, but what we're doing is we're reusing all of the water, the rainwater that we capture. So basically the house is reusing and capturing all of the rainwater from the sun or from its footprint.
Yes.
And then it's using it in everywhere in the house, from the kitchen to the toilets. And then the pool also reuses the water and is filtered back again. So the minimum there's minimum water waste.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you so much for sharing your projects with us today. How can viewers see more of your work or contact you if they wanted to get some designs done?
So you can find me in Instagram. That's where I mostly am. It's at Juanpa, Juampahh. And then my personal email also for projects is Juanp.Huertap@gmail.com.
Okay, well, thank you. And viewers, please contact Juan if you need some designs done. Okay, and viewers can also see more of my work at JennylyndJames.com/art and JennylyndJames.pixels.com, on Facebook and Instagram at Art by Jennylynd James. That's Art by Jennylynd James. Remember to hit that subscribe button so you can be alerted every time we speak to more creatives around the world. Thanks again, Juan Pablo.
Thank you very much, Jennylynd. Thank you, everybody, for your time. It was such a pleasure to be here.